Hello, everybody, and welcome to this Grace Note. Today, I want to speak to those of you who suffer from imposter syndrome and just want to get over it to get on with your dreams. So, I want to share something that I find just really helpful in this area because, on my own journey in creating a successful business, one that has allowed me to travel the world, create multiple six-figure income, and simply, and most importantly, show up every day doing what I love. I too had to get a freedom of mind about myself, particularly about my image and who I was, in order to have a much more graceful experience of life and business. So imposter syndrome it seems to me it's something that, most high achieving women suffer with. And I remember a number of years ago, I wrote an article for the Sunday Times in England on this very subject. And one of the questions they asked me at the time was, why do we suffer imposter syndrome and what can we do about it? So I want to talk about that today in order to help you just really get on with your dream business, whether that's, a healing business, a yoga business, a coaching business, and most importantly, so that you can simply relax in your life. Because here's what I've seen about imposter syndrome. It leaves you in a feeling of self-consciousness and tension. It leaves you in a feeling of stress. And that's not a relaxing way to live. There's so many women that go to work every day or show up to their business every day, and they're operating from a very tense place. And the reason for that tension is not because they're juggling too many appointments and there's too many demands on them. The reason for that tension is because they're literally living in an experience, in an inner world of self-conscious, insecure thoughts. Now, let me talk a little more deeply about this. I remember a number of years ago that I had a moment in my journey where I fell out of all the tension I was living in for a little while. And what happened for me was I heard the level of insecure noise in my head that I was living in. And I described this noise, thanks to a colleague of mine who referenced this, as Bob the drunk guy. All of us have a Bob the drunk guy in our head. That incestuous voice that tells you you're not good enough, you're not doing it right, it doesn't look proper. That voice can really get the better of us. And this version of Bob the drunk guy in my head was making me very self-conscious, was leaving me in the feeling of imposter. And the interesting thing for me was that my mind got so quiet and so reflective, and this happened to me during a retreat I was on, that for the first time in my life, I realized what that noise was, and I got a little bit of distance from it. And I remember at the time, as a result of getting that distance, as a result of hearing that noise and what that was, my whole body relaxed. I went from living uptight, self-conscious, completely in striving mentality and never feeling good enough, to feelings of well-being, feelings of being able to show up fully as myself, being able to just be of service without any sort of additional extra required. And so what that taught me was, it taught me that imposter syndrome is another form of insecurity. It's how our insecure thinking gets the better of us. And the more we listen to that insecure thinking, that Bob the drunk guy in our head, the more we live in a feeling of imposter, in a feeling of tension, in a feeling of self-consciousness. And the world can't connect with us very well when we're there. I remember when I fell out of this level of imposter syndrome, the first thing that happened for me was people started remarking of how much more easy it was to connect with me. People started remarking on my physical demeanor and how it had changed. People started making reference to the fact that when they spoke to me or they got in touch with me, they felt better. And I'd never heard that before. I always thought that it was about having the perfect image and the perfect website and having everything correct. And whilst those things are important, so that people can find you and people know why they want to work with you and people understand your message, what we underestimate is the feeling we give to people when we're with them. And as you can imagine, in a feeling of imposter syndrome, the best you can give anyone is a feeling of tension. You're holding yourself and you're tense, and you probably don't even realize it because, frankly, I didn't. For 33 years, I just lived in that feeling. So I didn't even know it was really happening at the time. So let me take it back a bit to just the beauty of this. You know, the beauty of this is that imposter syndrome is not something that you need to have 10 years of therapy to get over. Imposter syndrome is you listening to this Bob the drunk guy in your head who frankly is louder than your wisdom and is very compelling. Now, what do I mean by Bob the drunk guy? Well, on every corner of any big city in the world, there's some poor man lying there. Maybe he's got a bottle of whiskey or he's got something and he's screaming obscenities. He's shouting ridiculous things. And best we can do is just walk past him and say, oh, you know, poor guy. Maybe we throw him a few dollars, a few pounds, and, you know, we don't give him that much attention, do we? However, with Bob the drunk guy in our head, with all those insecure thoughts, humans run to Bob for advice. You know, we have this innocent behavior where we really listen to Bob and we listen to the insecurities and we listen to the obscenities. You know, you're not good enough. No one's going to like it. No one's going to want you. Everyone's going to think it's dumb. We go to Bob for coaching and it's ridiculous. You know, it's innocent, but it's ridiculous. Just as you wouldn't go to him on the street, we don't go to him in your head. You know, that's my piece. You get over imposter syndrome, you know, get a bit of distance from Bob in your head, and you will find that you're living more in feelings of wisdom and well-being, that you're living more in feelings of service and feelings of being able to show up. One of the huge things that happened for me as I fell out of that imposter syndrome and that self-consciousness is I started showing up in my business more. I began taking interviews. I started going on camera. All the things that held me back in the past, all the things I thought had to be perfect, like my image and my teeth and my accent and everything that Bob told me wasn't good enough to be on camera for in the past, fell away as I started to wake up to where that imposter feeling was coming from and realizing that it was really deeply ingrained in me, giving a lot of attention to those insecure, compelling but insecure thoughts in my head. And my business really changed after that. People started seeking me out because they could feel the level of truth I was sharing and living in, because I was more relaxed in myself and showing up. And that came with a different feeling than the feeling of imposter. So I hope that this has been helpful. Please do leave me a comment below if you want to let me know what you're hearing in this one. And, you know, my final word on this is, don't let this imposter feeling hold you back from your dream. Don't let it leave you in constantly trying to get everything perfect and right, because those are, the need for everything to be perfect and right, that, again, that's an indicator that you're listening to Bob. And the more you're listening to Bob, the more you're going to feel like an imposter, because guess what? Bob is an imposter, okay? He's not speaking wisdom. It's not coming from truth. It's not who you are. And frankly, it's not what the world is going to want to hear from you or, feel comfortable about with you. The world wants you in your feeling of well-being, in your relaxed state. And you do too, because from that place, you can simply create your dream. You can show up visibly. You can share your message. You can share your offers. You can heal the world from that place. So I hope this has been helpful. Get in touch if you want to talk more about imposter syndrome, gracefulcoaching@gmail.com, or check out the website on gracefulcoaching.net. Lots of love. Ciao.